Hello, I am Mike of New Enough Dice. This is the Kerbal Space Program. We are paused at the minute. I've loaded up my Mun kind of hopper, but I've paused, and I'll demonstrate why. Because I was going to be attempting to test the leg balancing script and try various other things, basically do some testing. Um, there is a problem, which is that it falls apart, which is not something I have seen before. If I hit F3, I can get a damage report. Structural failure on the linkage between the M2 lander can and the battery pack. Structural failure on the linkage between the drill-o-matic and the lander can. Structural failure on the linkage between the service bay and the lander can. Somehow it has endured 1.2 G's worth of force, despite being on the landing pad. And you'll also notice that the legs have splayed out. So something's gone a bit wrong there. You also notice the gantries aren't actually attached to the I don't know if that's actually a problem or if that's just the way it's being displayed. So that's an issue. Might be one of the things that wouldn't happen on the Mun itself. It might be as simple as these are just too heavy, and so they're kind of ripping the. And this might be solvable just by struts, but the drill parts might be just too heavy and they're kind of ripping that off. But then I'm not quite sure why the service bay is coming off the lander can. I've never had anything like this happen before, so I'm not quite sure what to do about it. I mean, the obvious thing is to just struts everywhere, struts from there to there, struts from there to there, struts from there. Maybe attach those but via struts as well. But it could be that things aren't attached the way I think that they're attached. Maybe I need to put on some hard points to be a bit more explicit about what's attached to what. But that's kind of interesting. Never mind. I've done a couple of things. I've added lights because I always complain about not having lights. So I've now put some lights on. So if I ever do get this thing to work, then it'll have lights. Another innovation, which I'm quite pleased with actually, because I'm always having this issue where I've got it in space, or in this case it'll be run on the Mun. It's like, now I want to extend the solar panels, which are these here. I've put them this way so that they're not in the way of the RCS when they're folded up. And I'll put a name tag on them, which is AC1 to deploy. That tells me that I can use, that should be AG, I don't know why I said AC, it should be AG, but anyway. It means I can just hit action group 1, which by default is the 1 key. And that's telling me what action group I've set up, because without mods, there's no way of knowing what action group is set to what. I also set up action groups on the drills, but the drills are full enough, so I can't show you those. The drills also have a slight issue, which is that I need to do at least 3 things. I need to toggle them, which is deploy them and undeploy them, and I need to turn them on and turn them off. And you can't toggle that; you just have to turn them on and turn them off. You actually have to have there's a start and a stop. You can't toggle whether or not it's working. So I'm going to have to deal with this in some way. Let's go back to the vehicle assembly, I guess. There's another issue which is to do with the way the legs are attached to one another. well, not to one another, but the way they're attached to the the gantries, I think, because when I did test the legs, it seemed to think that leg 4 was in a radically different position to all the other legs, which was a bit weird. But they should in fact just be, they should all be the same. But I'm not entirely sure that they're attached in the same way. So something odd is going on here. So I tried just detaching bits and pieces. Just detach them and reattach them to see if that works any better. The service bay down here, by the way, was just a place to put a materials bay and 2 mystery goo containers. I could have just hung it. I just could have hung them just directly on the underside like that and not bothered with the service bay, but that seemed a bit wrong to do it that way. So I just hung a service bay. But now, to be perfectly honest, I should probably put all the scientific instruments inside the service bay instead of where they are. I'm quite decided. Materials bayers are a pain. They're just inconvenient where the way they put themselves. I wonder if the fact that they open into the rockets is what's partly causing the problem. So I'm not sure what it is that is causing this problem. I just do that, and I've suddenly right. Oh, you don't have to do the whole animation. Just show me how deep you go. Right. So in other words, I can hold it that high up and still be able to use it. Okay, cool. I also need to put on symmetry. That means I should move that. I can put those in the service. I can put those in there. Can I put those in here? I'm going to hang that there for a second. I put these in the service bay. Kind of feel you should be. Oh no, that would clip it in there, which is not a terrible thing. I wouldn't mind that terribly. I don't know if that would actually. That seems a bit of a strange thing to be able to do. Try and get that more or less symmetrical. That seems a bit odd that you can do that, but okay. If that's the way you think it should work, game, then I'm not gonna. I don't see that I should disagree with you. Now these gantries. I don't know how much the problem is that because they're just hanging out in space, which is probably doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But by the other token, If I just put them where they seem to want to go, that's where they go. Now by doing that, I've probably wrecked the naming conventions that I've got. Yeah, everything's now leg 2, so I'm going to have to go around and rename everything. I think that's less hanging out in space than it was. No, it's still hanging out in space a bit. I also don't think it's quite centered. So what I'm hoping is I've taken some of the weight and strain off those two components, which maybe they've got a weak connection or something. And I'm probably mucked up. Yeah, they've all now changed. So I'm going to have to go through each of these and make sure they've got the right name tag, because I took one off and then put it on with symmetry. So now I need to find. Right, so I'm declaring that to be leg 2. So that is indeed leg 2 height. So right, I'll put you up there to say that I've done you. See if I can find leg 1, which is that one. So that's leg 1. It's purely arbitrary which one's leg 1, but I've decided that one is leg 1. So you go up here to demonstrate your leg 1. I'll also move. I keep changing the order that they're in, and it keeps completely ignoring it and going back to the way it was. I think this one was this one's leg 3. Change name tag, leg 3, because my script does slightly rely on them being named the correct thing. So that's leg 3, so I'll put that up there to indicate that I've done it. Which means this one is leg 4. That is leg 4. I have renamed that one, haven't I? I have. So all of them can now go to their midpoint. Right, we'll save that. Check my crew. That's not my crew. Engineer and scientist, which is what I want. Don't think there's any other action groups I need to play with. One thing I could do is be clever with the KOS devices. I've got 2 of them. I could give them custom boot scripts, so as soon as they boot up, they do the specific thing I want them to do, as opposed to having to load up information. We're going to save that. I'm going to see how that goes for launch. And that fails. I either don't understand how, if this still doesn't work, and especially the main problem is if the legs splay out. That's what I'm most going to be aggrieved by. Now, having said all that, it's not really designed to stand in Kerbal gravity. It's meant to stand in Munar gravity, so that it might not be quite as bad as a problem as Alright, the legs have gone. But it doesn't look like it's going to fall apart. So the legs are still splaying. Now that might be down to a number of things. It might be they're connected to you know, the middle part of that gantry, and that might be what's causing the problem. I'm just going to quickly test. Mun Hopper leg balance. What are you complaining about? I can't spell hopper is not my problem here. Right, that's as expected. Basically, it's moved the legs hardly any. That's exactly as it should be. Okay, so let's go to doing testing. So I'm going to open up HyperEdit. I'm going to use a ship lander. There's a thing that I did. There we go, taxi stand. And I click on this. So I'm going to be reverting all of this. So, you know, whoa. Okay, let's. Fortunately, we're in the daytime. It could have been entirely at night, which would have, you know, still would have worked. It just would have looked a bit stupid. Oh, let's put the SAS on, shall we? Put the LCS on. So one of the things we're doing here is we're testing the gears at this point. That's not really doing what I want it to do, is it? Okay, what I'm trying to do is just kind of pull it upwards. Nah, it's upright. It's not falling over. That's the main thing. Alright, so the landing legs don't seem to be splaying out like I was worried about. Also don't seem to be balancing themselves like I would like them to do. I don't know whether that's because I need this may simply be too heavy. So maybe I need yet more landing legs. Which means I'm going to have to adjust my code even more than I already have. And this might be finally my excuse to make completely generic landing code. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test to see whether or not I've broken it. If I raise that leg, because that leg is off the ground, so it's not doing anything. So I can cheerfully raise it. It's not a problem. Well, it looks like I've still got a lot of work to do. One thing, I was wondering if the landing legs was bottoming out, which might have been the problem, but that doesn't seem to be the issue. There seems to be about a meter difference between the highest leg, which is that one, which admittedly is off the ground, and the lowest leg, which is that one, with the others kind of being in the middle. Well, I think I'm going to have to do some more testing. I might need to make more legs. I might need to make a fully generic, it'll just count the number of legs it's got and then work its way from there. But more importantly, it doesn't fall apart anymore the way it used to. I think it's possible that this was just too heavy for those two. My legs, I may need more legs for this size of craft. But mostly things seem to be working, so I'm just going to have to revert all this and go back to the vehicle assembly and have another go. So there you go. That was I was not used to things falling apart on the landing pad like what they did here. So that's a thing that I was very surprised by. But there you go. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching. Do like and subscribe if you enjoy the videos. Come visit nearenoughdicecom. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, reach for the stars and do testing, because your craft may fall apart.